Please welcome our next speaker, Josh Reed, presenting More Than Skin Deep, a defense of criminal profiling.
The criminal justice system has become one of the most highly controversial systems in America. Is it fair to attach criminal behaviors to suspects based on their race or physical appearances? Are these methods just? Are they effective? Although some argue that criminal profiling practices are unjust, I argue that those in law enforcement attempting to initiate stops based on physical appearances, such as driving patterns, style of car, in order to preemptively address crime, do so to pursue justice, liberty, and equality for all. To begin with, criminal profiling and racial profiling are two completely different types of profiling. Criminal profiling takes into account a large number of factors when determining the outcome of a suspect, while racial profiling highlights only one of these factors and begins to strip that human of their basic American rights. The Criminal Justice Service, on behalf of the FBI, defines criminal profiling as a technique used to identify the perpetrator of a violent crime by identifying the personality and behavioral characteristics of the offender based upon an analysis of the crime committed. This most likely does not account for the suspect race, but rather the type of criminal involved: serial killer, psychopath, etc. Race and ethnicity are just two of the factors implemented into an officer's judgment when deciding whether or not to make a stop. He takes into account the general demographic of the community. Does that suspect fit in with the general demographic of the community? He takes into account the language of the suspect and the general community. Does that suspect speak the language of those around him? In the end, the officer is trying to assess the normality of the situation. And then, based on the normality of the situation, the officer is then able to judge whether or not the suspect is committing a crime or is in any organized criminal affiliation. For an example, if an officer sees a Chilean man getting out of a beat-up Toyota Corolla, speaking Spanish on the phone in an affluent Beverly Hills English-speaking community, that officer's attention will be drawn to that man. At the end of the day, the officer's goal is to find crime and to eliminate it from our community, to do so fairly and impartially. Furthermore, through the use of criminal profiling, departments can ensure that people are being stopped for an actual violation and not just a racial basis. The United States Department of Justice has determined in their most recent survey that 95% of people who are stopped not on a racial basis, but are given a legitimate reason for the stop. In order to fairly initiate this process, officers must witness a clear infraction in the law, which must be testifiable in court. If the suspect disagrees with the officer's clear claim to a breach in the law, they can choose to testify against that decision in the court of law, for that is their purpose. Through the use of criminal profiling, we must limit, and if not eliminate, all crime in our society. As a country, as Americans, we must stand together in order to limit perpetrators against our society. We must work together as one community in order to make a safer community for our children, for our spouses, for our children. We must portray and teach these highly valuable strategies to law enforcement agencies in order to pursue justice, liberty, and equality for all. Thank you.